Hey again, welcome back to Coding with Drew. In this video, we're going to learn about parameter expansion in detail. We're going to get some practice in, and I hope that you're taking great notes because these will be super valuable later. Okay, so in order to do parameter expansions in Bash the way I'm going to teach you, you have to be using Bash 4.0 or greater. Chances are, if you watch any of my previous videos, this is Bash 3.2. And the way that you do this, and if you follow the setup instructions for this course at the very, very beginning on the first day, I told you to install Brew. So Brew is a great package manager, but without getting into too much details, what you're going to run is Brew, search, Bash, and then you're going to see that there's a couple different versions of Bash available. We're going to install this one that's just Bash. So we're going to do Brew, and then we're going to do update, and this will take a minute. Yours might not already be up to date. I just ran it before this video. And then you're going to have to run brew install bash. Now, I'm just going to close this, but it'll take you a second for it to run. And then your terminal will still say bash 3.2 until you go into ZSH and then you go back into bash. All right. So once you're back into bash, it should show the latest version, which will, at the time of writing, will be at least 5.1. Now, the reason why we did this is because parameter expansion shortcuts didn't exist in bash 3 point whatever. And you want to be on the latest anyways, because it's the greatest. All right. So let's learn how to declare variables because we've glazed over this. So variables are always key value in this format. And as you can see, I'm just pressing Control C, terminate this prompt and go to the new line without executing because key is likely a reserved keyword and I don't know whether or not it is. And speaking of reserved keywords, you cannot make a variable. You can, but it'll break things. You don't want to make a new value like ls equals blah, 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 because now you've overwritten a reserved keyword and you won't be able to use ls anymore. And you don't want to do this. So if you wrote this in, press Control C to just close it out. It won't execute. It's completely safe. All right. Now we've established what you can't call a key, but we haven't said what you should call it. So normal good practice is start with a letter. It should always be a letter for the first letter. And then let's say I wanted it to be different. So I can say num12, I can say num underscore 12, or I could say num12. So the thing about naming is you want this to be as obvious as possible what this variable is declaring. So if you just named it poop, for example, it's not going to be obvious to the person who comes and reads your code later what poop is, unless it was literally just a poop emoji or something obvious. Let's say I name it just A. So A equals alphabet. And this might make sense to you, but it's not clear and obvious to somebody who's coming to your code and reading it later what A really means. So it'd be better to call it alphabet and then you have a variable. All right. So the value, so let's say name equals, and this can be written as a single word without any quotes, or as good practice, always use double quotes for string. So Drew character, for example, inside of quotes. Now I don't have to escape any space marks inside of double quotes. Let's say I press return. Now I have access to name parameter expansion. All right. So I have the name parameter expansion. Name is stored as a variable and I can access it as long as I have the session live. But if I close this session and I open it back up and I clear and go to bash, clear. Let's make this bigger for you. If I try to echo out $, name, it's gone. It doesn't exist because it was stored in memory. Now, let's say I take and wanted to create a new variable. Let's call it num. And I wanted it to be like 15. All right. So num15 echo $. So numbers, to be a number, would not have any quotes on the outside. But if I was to put it inside of quote marks, this would become a string and no longer a number. So it's not obvious when you're looking at it because it still says 15, but this is not the same as this. This is a string and this is an integer. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, we now know how to declare a variable in Bash. Let's learn how to manipulate our variables, and we're going to clear this out. And so let's recreate our name variable that we killed. So name equals, and you can use your own name here, true character. Okay. So echo $name will result in exactly what I put in here. And when you do a parameter expansions are always run whatever's inside the parameter expansion first. So parameter expansion, this equals this. So this replaces this in the code. And then the computer reads it from start to finish. Echo Drew character. Okay. Drew character is in first letter capitalized, right? Let's change that so that the first letter is no longer capitalized. And if you're using Bash 3.2 or anything lower than 4, this will not work. So those initial steps that I told you to update, brew, and install Bash are required. All right, let's run echo $name. And then let's put a comma right here before we close out the curly brackets and see what happens. All right, so 1 comma results in the first letter of the string being lowercase. Well, that's cool. What if I want the whole thing, including the big K here, to be lowercase? It's pretty easy. We're just going to add another comma right before the closing bracket. And now you lowercase the entire string. All right, for a new demonstration, let's do this. All right, I'm copy pasting this because it's much easier than typing this out and saving you the misery. All right, so lowercase equals the alphabet in all lowercase from A through Z. And in this variable, if I wanted to echo lowercase, these would do nothing because it's already lowercase. If I wanted to uppercase it, I could do this. Uppercase first letter, A. Now if I want to do the whole thing, it's 2 carats, just like the double commas. What if I wanted to make a new variable and call it uppercase? So let's do that. Uppercase equals, and then we'll do echo lowercase. Will this work? No, it will not. And this is because we are saying run equals echo, and then this is a whole command. So uppercase equals echo, which is not correct. And then run this command, which would be the uppercase letters here. This is not a command. This is where, remember what I told you, we're going to use the curly brackets exclusively because it will simplify things later. And this is because we are running a command and the command is echo and we're providing it a value. So we have to let this equal sign know that everything that follows it is going to be a command and it will equal whatever the output of that command is. So in order to do this, it's just like the $ curly brackets, but with parentheses. So we do it this way. And let's press return. Now, if I do echo $ curly bracket uppercase, you can see that I have stored uppercase as the value of the lowercase output command. I hope that didn't lose you, and we'll have lots more practice with this. But the point I'd like to drive here is this is a parameter expansion, and this is a command expansion. I'm sure there's another word for it. All I know is that this is a command expansion. You have to use parentheses when you want a command to output, and you use curly brackets when you just want to expand or replace whatever this value is with its original value, which is located here. Okay. What if I wanted to do something like remove the first letter from uppercase? All right. So let's say I take uppercase, do this same command, and I have two values I can provide after uppercase. And if I run this, it won't do anything because I've not provided it any values. Rest assured, uppercase is still there. So this is the offset, and this is the length. All right, so let's just break this down just a little further. So this is the variable or the key for the variable that we set uppercase. Uppercase equals right here. And when I run this, it will replace it with this. And the offset says, okay, start at whatever number I provide. So variables are always indexed in a certain way. You always start with 0, then 1, 2, and so on. So if I offset 2, it would start at 0, 1, 2. It would always start at C and be here. So let's see that in action. All right. All right. So 2, and then we're just going to leave the second value blank just for now. So you can see it started on C instead of B, which is what you probably expected mentally. This is the first one, second one. But it starts 0, 1, 2. All right. So what does the second length value do? Let's say I say 2 here. What will happen? So what I've done is said, all right, start on the second value of this string, so C, and go to characters. And that's all it provided. What if I wanted to do a different way? And I provide negative value here. What now? I got everything except for the last two values. That's pretty neat. Okay, and what if I do a negative value here? It still produced the entire string because -2 would be way over here. And so it's going to start here and output everything afterwards. Now, you could reverse the order, and this is important here. You have to put a space before that -2. So let's see what happens. Oh, it's totally different output from this. So the space -2 says start here and go the length of 2. So let's see another example of this. Let's do length of 7 and 7. All right. So it said, okay, start at the end and go 7 digits. So T, and then a length of 7. All right. That's pretty neat. Okay. I hope that was pretty insightful and you got some practice, and I hope you took great notes because you will end up referring back to this later, either in this course or in real life when you're trying to remember how do I make a bash variable lowercase or uppercase, or how do I offset and remove or slice my code so that way the output is always missing, say like the file extension at the end, or I don't want this prefix at the beginning of every one of my variables. We're going to learn more about escaping in the next video. I'll see you.